Welcome. I'm Susan Regier, and this is Your Marketing Makeover, where I answer your questions to help you captivate, fascinate, and dominate your market. Today's question comes from Carol. She's talking about bios today. You know, the About Us page on your website. Here's what she has to ask. I've heard you talk about the importance of sharing your story, but does anyone really care? Isn't it enough to explain just what I do? Carol, remember this: everyone loves a good story. Boring resumes on your website, they just don't work. Nobody wants to hear a list of your qualifications or jobs that you've worked at previously. They may help you get a job in some instances, but even resumes today have to be a little bit more creative. On your website, we want to find out who you are behind what everybody else sees. You know, the story behind the story. Think about the movie stars that you've seen or celebrities. You want to know what's going on in their personal life. You want to know a little bit more about the individual and not just what you see them doing on a day-to-day basis. It helps to give that connection, create an emotional connection, so that your audience will know if you are the right person to work with. It establishes that know, like, and trust factor that you hear about so often. So on your website, your About Us page or your bio page, that's where you show the whole story. And then when I'm talking about the whole story, I'm talking around 350 words. So you're not writing a book here. This is not your biography by any means. But we want to get the details on, you know, where you've come from. What was that turning point that got you to where you are today, and shares what you do and how you can help other people today as well. So yes, it's important to share, you know, your qualifications and maybe any associations that you belong to, different societies, accreditations that you've got, experience. But we want to have it in an interesting story form. The great thing about having a great bio, having it done on your website, is that you can extract the pieces from that later on, so that if you're being introduced as a speaker at an event, or if you've written a book and you just need a little blurb on the back of it, you can pull that from your existing bio. You don't have to start from scratch. You'd have to tweak it a little bit to make it tailored to whatever you're talking about or you've written about, but the essence of the story is already there. So when you're looking at your bio or your story, what is it that sets you apart? And often this is, you know, when you're doing the exploring, this is where you uncover your uniqueness, why you're different from everybody else in the industry who's doing the same type of work that you're doing. You really can stand apart when you share your story, because no one else has that same story. No two are alike, so you can stand out. So how do you do this? How do you write this and come up with those great 350 or so words that share who you are? So of course you're going to write the regular, I call it sort of the boring information that has to be in there. You know, what you do, what kind of services, who you work with, getting some of that information down, those tangible bits on paper, getting them out of the way. If I'm as a copywriter, for example, I would say my expert status: I am a copywriter, I am an author, I am a speaker, I am a marketing coach, I do marketing strategies for my clients, and I network. I do a lot of networking seminars and so on as well. So those are my expert statuses, but I don't want to just write that down. But if you get that out of the way, get it down on paper, then you can come into the creative part and share a little bit about your story and how you got there. That's what I call the fun part. So is there a time in your life that was a real turning point that got you where you are today? Or was there something from your childhood that got you on this path? One of my clients, he was a photographer in Florida, in Tampa. And when he was a child, his father was always in the darkroom. He always had a camera. And when he looked through the lens at what his father was taking, he was hooked. And he never was without a camera the rest of his life. But sharing that little story about how he would stand up on a stool by his father's side and look through the lens, it created an image that somebody else could relate to. And he thought, oh, so that's how he got on the path to where he was. It was in the family. It was already there. That's not the case for everybody. There are a lot of wellness coaches or wellness practitioners who had a deep healing experience, either for themselves or somebody in their family. And they can share that. What happened to them, other people can relate to that and use that for their own story. I had one client, she was a therapist, and she helped people with self-esteem issues. When I was looking at her the content in her bio, it was very plain. There was nothing in there that really made her stand out. And during a conversation, I found out that, you know, she had studied with the monks in Tibet. She had swam with the sharks off the Australian coast. She had all of these amazing experiences, and she didn't want to share any of them in her bio because she thought that it was bragging. But these experiences that she had really underlined all of the growth that she did so that she can help other people. And by others reading that, they can get that and want to work with somebody who's in alignment with them. So what is it in your story? What has happened in your life that you can share that really underlines where you're coming from and where you're headed? Was there something in your past? Have you got any fun awards or claims to fame that you can throw in there as well to make it a little bit humorous? It doesn't have to be always serious. Have you won certain races that you can include and as an analogy for what you're doing today? Another client of mine, she's in the finance industry, and she's traveled extensively. When she was in France, and she loves France and going into the different fromagières and trying cheese. And in France, they take their cheese very seriously. Well, she had an experience where she ordered a cheese, a particular type of cheese out of season, and was literally laughed out of the store. It was a humiliating experience for her, a life lesson, and we included it into her bio. And she actually got a client who said that she called her because of the cheese story. She got it. We made it fun, we made it humorous, we made it real because it was real. So in your past, where have you come from? What are you doing that is different? Nobody can say the same thing. Often, when you're writing down all of these things in your past and what you're doing, you're going to find the essence on who you are today. So you might come up with your own little tagline, or it's going to become your brand simply by exploring your story. There's a lot to uncovering and untap and go into detail on who you are. I do have a program called StoryWorks. It's on my website at susanregier.com, and it gives you the whole blowdown on creating your story and making it work and putting it up on your website, how to use it effectively. So if you're interested in really exploring and writing that story in detail, take a look at StoryWorks at susanregier.com. And in the meantime, if you have a question about your marketing, send me an email at susan@susanregier.com. That's SUSANREGIER.com. And I'll answer it on the next edition of Your Marketing Makeover. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers for now.